Welcome to Householders, a conversation about American life as Zen practice. I'm Inga Annie Tudora.
And I'm Kyosaku John Mitchell, and we're lay members of the Atlanta Soto Zen Center.
I think that I really haven't been paying attention as much to my body and my feelings and that sort of thing, which is very unusual for me. And I do want to talk about that because, I've being a disabled person and being on Social Security for like a large portion of my adult life.
Mm-hmm.
I had a lot of time to devote to like emotions and my body.
Mm-hmm.
And I did stuff. I went to school and I would intern part-time and that kind of thing. So I wasn't like, but I still had more time. Like working a full-time job, like it feels like you have no time for anything. It really does. You have to prioritize so hard.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure you have to prioritize even harder because you also have a kid. So
I have two kids.
But there's a lot of time that it takes for me to feel normal and good, and I've been slacking.
Yeah.
And I've been slacking on meditation.
Yeah.
A lot too.
Me too. A little bit.
And I feel like shit.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like shit. I'm still trying, but I can't get in the headspace of like where I normally am, and I don't know exactly why that happened, but it probably does have something to do again with the death of my father, which at this point, like I'm starting to wonder, I'm like, how long am I supposed to like feel bad about this? But it is to the point where I'm like, well, how much, like I've certainly tried to deal with it, but I think there is a certain part of me that's like kind of put it off too,
Mm-hmm.
Worked on getting myself on my feet again before trying to deal with it, if that makes sense.
Trying to deal with the like processing of the emotions.
Well, like I don't think I can personally deal with like heavy emotions unless I'm like in a good place.
Yeah.
Physically, emotionally, maybe even. So I think a lot of that time was like I was really stressed out because I had been traveling a lot. I needed to get back into the rhythm of things. I needed to find things to do that made me happy.
Mm-hmm.
And putting that all into place before really deciding to be like, okay, now we're going to deal with these emotions, which I don't know. You could argue maybe that's not the best approach, but if you're, running like a chicken with your head cut off and trying to deal with emotions at the same time, that could also probably be disastrous.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I went to the doctor because I decided, okay, I can't do everything at once. I am trying, to deal with my disability, to deal with these emotions, to work full time every day and do stuff that makes me happy. And it was just getting really hard. And I looked into it and I'm like, I would really like to get some intermittent time off of work. And if you have a serious illness like me, you can. It's not going to be paid. But they have to like let you do it.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, yeah, you know what? I'm really not very money motivated.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really not, and I'm like, I don't even care if I don't get paid for that time.
Yeah.
My HR's lady, she's just trying to convince me like we can figure it out without like you losing your paid time. I'm like, I don't.
Mm-hmm.
Can we just do this? This seems easier to me. I'll just be like, I need off, and then you just take it off, and then I'll be good. Like, I don't want to have to like ask permission to, oh, please let me take this time off, the goodness of your heart, and still pay me, and not let me have to take my PTO, I went to the doctor because I was like, let me get the doctor on my side first.
Mm.
And I go there and I talk to her and I tell her like how stressful it's been to not have any time off work from the point when my dad died till now, and being like, they gave me 3 days of bereavement leave. And I'm like, that'd be an interesting feat to like get over the death of a loved one in 3 days.
Uh-huh.
I'd like to see someone try.
Yeah.
um but yeah, so and I was telling her how stressful it was. Like I was getting a lot of physical pain and symptoms that going along with it, because stress and emotional problems can just make you feel bad physically, even if it's not making you feel bad emotionally. But obviously that was the case too. And I just started crying. And she was like, oh, I guess you need to go see a therapist.
Mm.
So I'm like, could you just help me get the FMLA? Like, seriously, that would be that'd be really helpful. And so she's like, yeah, okay, just send me whatever. I'll fill out the paperwork. So anyways, the HR lady didn't even make me fill out the paperwork. And I'm like, here we are. I'm finally here. I haven't used it yet. You don't know how excited I am to know that I have the security to have a day where I don't feel good, that I can just take off, no questions asked.
Mm.
And I don't even have to use my paid time off. I can still have like a vacation.
Mm.
Like that is just a miracle. And I'm really beyond thankful for that we have that as something our government allows us to do, even if it's unpaid. Maybe you could argue we should still be paid for it, but I'm fine with this, honestly.
I mean, what counts as a safety net in our society? Like, I mean,
I don't lose any of my benefits.
Right,
I
yeah.
still have my job.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah,
because I mean, I'm sure back in the day people got fired for like needing to take time off for their illness.
yeah. I wonder how this kind of stuff is going over time. Like, it feels like the situation for workers is like pretty dire these days.
Yeah.
Obviously there have been many dire times for the workforce in history in this country and everywhere. But like at the same time, I feel like there's such a groundswell of like assertion of the right to have this kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And like people are just quitting their jobs like crazy, like since the pandemic started.
Mm-hmm.
Which I feel like is at least partially out of recognition that like this whole situation is just not tenable for people. It's like not survivable. And
I think another thing, like
Mhm.
they actually had time to think about whether their job made them happy.
Yeah.
Or not.
Totally. Right, because you don't even have time to reflect on whether this is an arrangement that works, let alone anything else that you need to reflect on,
And
or just
that's
like,
what it's
not
been
doing
my
anything.
too, like just having the time to reflect on it.
Yeah.
And being like, this isn't a good situation for me. I should have had more time off when my dad died.
Yeah, 3
When I
days.
wasn't
That's
feeling
really
good.
wild. HR is such a funny thing. Like, they have to translate things that really happen to real people who work for them into like numbers and spreadsheet rows.
Hmm.
And that job is kind of thankless, but also, it really should be like the most important department in a company. Right.
Yeah.
And like
Mhm.
the director of HR should be one of the most powerful people in the company. And if anything about the bottom line at the company puts any kind of undue strain on the HR department, to that might like threaten the well-being of employees, the HR director should be able to like veto that. It
Mhm.
seems to me. Like what good is any of this if you can't retain people or keep them happy? But
Yeah.
that's just not how executives seem to see the reality by and large. And like there are very few companies, like there are so few companies that really work that way, that the ones that even start to work that way kind of tend to turn it into like a PR thing.
Mm-hmm.
And like it's like too good to be true. And like I've worked at companies that had in the Bay Area, it's really common. I don't know anymore, but certainly when I was there, like at tech and tech adjacent media companies, it was really common to have an unlimited vacation policy
Yeah.
where like you can just take time off whenever you want, no questions asked, as long as your manager like doesn't need you then.
Mm-hmm.
And no one did it. Like it turned out that the sort of pop science behind why this was an okay thing for companies to do is that people take less vacation than they do at companies where they have a fixed amount of days that they have
Well,
to
that's
use up.
because like now you're going to be compared to everyone else.
Exactly.
Like how many days is this guy taking off versus how many days is this guy taking off, you
Yep.
know?
Yep.
And you don't want to be the guy that's taking all the vacation time off.
Yeah.
Like that doesn't reflect good on you. So I
Right.
can totally see that. I mean, I like the idea.
Yeah, but it's like it's clearly cynical because
Yeah.
it's like it's like in parentheses at the end of that statement. It's like, and then you'll never get promoted, right?
Yeah.
Like you
Yeah.
can either have vacations or get promoted, and so it's it's really interesting because it's like that shows that the fewer sort of hard regulations and like quantified measures of human health your company provides, the kind of more barbaric and predatory it is, right?
Well, yeah. So what do you think about like, I know that people would promote a lot of like mindfulness at the workplace,
Uh-huh.
like have a meditation room, have a, I don't know, a Zen space or something like that. And they're like, this is, if people do this, it's proven to just make them want to work more.
Uh-huh. Right. Well, so I was actually around at the sort of beginning of that trend in tech companies, like particularly at Google. And I even went to a conference called Wisdom 2.0, if you can believe that that's a thing that somebody actually named something. That was like a tech conference about spirituality.
Mm-hmm.
I went there to cover it and heard a lot of these first initial pitches about how like mindfulness is the word they always used, and like productivity belong together, right? And so there was a while where companies were just providing like quiet rooms with cushions, sitting cushions and yoga mats in them as like a benefit at work that you could just go into in the middle of the workday and like have a quiet space to be. And that is kind of wonderful no matter what you think. Like the CEO probably thinks if we let them do meditation, they'll be happier and more productive. But like, that doesn't mean you can't just like go do Zazen, like it doesn't actually concretely benefit the company. It's just like a nice thing for employees to have. But the thing is that gradually got replaced with these like more structured curricula where like teachers come in and they give you guided meditations that are about becoming more productive and stuff.
No.
Then these apps started coming out, which is like the same thing where it's like, hypnosis about being okay with your situation. And so the whole thing just became this commodity where it's not even really about quiet anymore. It's about like filling your head with propaganda.
Yeah, like it's very powerful too. And I've actually done self-hypnosis. I mean, I did it when I was like 13 and it was very effective. I hypnotized myself to eat healthier, and it has not worn off to this day. And I hypnotized myself to be more outgoing, and that is also not worn off to this day. And then more recently, when I was doing interviews, because this is going to be my first like big girl job, and I hypnotized myself to be more like confident in like interview type situations stuff, and I think that really did extend into my career as well. And I've been thinking recently, like, I told my sister about that, and I was like, yeah, like, it really does work, by the way, like, as long as, it's you making suggestions to yourself, and there's, really nothing more powerful than that. And I have thought about it recently, so she did it, and she was like, yeah, I think this, like, kind of worked. I forgot what hers was, but I've been thinking, if I do self-hypnosis again, like, I want to be very careful with what I am, like, choosing as a topic.
Because it works.
Because it works.
Yeah.
And I don't want to give myself the wrong kind of suggestion.
Totally.
Let me think very carefully about what I actually want, and what the consequences of having that thing are. So far, I think that they have been beneficial things, but I want to make sure that at the end of the day, whatever I decide to do a self-hypnosis on continues to be something that's going to benefit me, and not something like just something that I just want,
Yeah, I mean, it definitely works, and I believe in it as a therapy. Also, it's just that the thing that makes me sick about this corporate mindfulness stuff is that it's disingenuous about what it is.
Yeah.
Like it pretends it like uses Buddhist words to describe what it is, and like just borrows like flagrantly from Buddhist teachings because Buddhist teachings sound good. Right.
Yeah.
And then like you get into the practice part and it has nothing at all to do with the Buddha's prescription. It's like the opposite of it. And
I've certainly noticed stuff like that with even like with, what is it? I want to call it the prosperity gospel, but it's like non-religious version of that.
You mean like just sort of manifestation culture,
Yeah.
positive thinking? Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. And a lot of that stuff is like self-aware about what it's trying to do. It's like nakedly sort of egoistic in its pursuit. It's the thing where you start to add aesthetics to like what it means to be calm, what it means to be relaxed, what it means to be stress-free. Like stress is like a modern phenomenon that it's very easy to talk about in Buddhist terms, right? Like you can spin some really good dharma about how stressful modern life is. But you can also spin it just a little bit so that being stress-free means like doing your job at like A+ performance and just loving every second of it. And that's what it would mean to be stress-free, right? Like it doesn't mean like work less and have like more walks outside. It means accept your circumstances. And like, it's so easy to inject that kind of malicious stuff into a curriculum of mind control that's like not tied to any particular spirituality. It's just like a sort of lifestyle adjustment.
I mean, I just think that we work too much in general too. Like it's almost like they need some way to convince you that this is okay. This is okay for you.
Yeah. I think you're right.
This is a decent practice. You'll be fine. And people have done it for 100 years. So, it's a good way to go. And I'm like, well, I don't know. Maybe we should rethink it because it doesn't seem ideal to me. And it's not, I actually like my job. So I feel like if I like my job and I think it's too much, like I can't imagine if someone like dislikes their job and they're doing that.
Yeah. Like I don't have a yeah, my job does not stress me out this way. And I'm really grateful for that. And also, it's really interesting. There is a meditation on Friday mornings at 11 offered by the sort of the wellness department for all offices. Like they're like it isn't an HR thing. It's like it's more like being on a college campus than being in a corporation, So it's like
Mhm.
it's not from the HR department, it's from the like mental health department.
Mm.
And so they do these guided meditations that are really nice. I've gone to them a few
Oh,
times.
that's nice.
And I mean, it's not my thing, It's not like
Right, yeah.
stylistically what I do, but also it's like pretty
It's not really
hard for me to
style.
get up from my desk and go sit zazen and then get right back at it. Like having a little bit
Yeah.
facilitated experience actually really helps. Even so, I feel like my time, like even given this kind of ideal situation in terms of full-time job,
Mhm.
I still just can't help but feel like the allotment of time in my life is off, like
Mhm.
from what it should be. And, I'm not even saying that I shouldn't be doing this amount of like quote unquote hard things,
Oh yeah, no, I'm not saying that either.
but like, when am I supposed to mow my lawn or like fix like something that's broken in my house?
You just have to hire people to do it.
Right. But it's dumb. Like I could do that. I would enjoy doing that.
Well, that's exactly what I'm saying. Like it's just like it keeps adding up where you're like, well, now I don't have to I don't have time to do this and this, and then like you have to hire other people to do those things, and then that means you're even more tied to your
Yep.
work because now you're reliant on all these people to do all these other things for you, and
Yeah.
you're like that becomes more like a feedback loop because you're like, well, I have all these things to pay for. I can't just stop my job.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. The number, if I like, I don't want to think about the number of times that like the sole issue of health insurance has like controlled my life decisions
Oh, sure. It's
for
important.
years.
And you know how America is,
Yeah.
so
Yeah. And it's like now with kids, it's like completely non negotiable.
mm,
Like I simply couldn't afford to have them healthy and taken care of otherwise, you know? Like if I had to pay for our insurance ourselves or like pay out of pocket for their doctor's appointments, like we wouldn't have enough. It's just simply like
yeah.
the only way we can do it. So that's ridiculous. It shouldn't be like that. No other civilized nation on earth is like that.
Right.
But that's just where they get you in this particular society. It's not like, this isn't a problem everywhere. Like just the whole idea of uh not just this kind of work, but like this feedback loop that you're talking about where like because the economic theory is that that's good. It's good that you employ like 30 people to maintain your household while you do a job, right?
Yeah, and then you don't have time to spend the quality time with yourself, and they're like, that's another thing you have to hire out. You have to hire out a therapist to
Therapist,
help
yeah.
you like make that time to do it.
Yep.
And you're like, well, it's an hour a week, which is probably not enough
Yeah.
time just to devote to that. But if it's all you can do, at least it's like, well, at least a professional is helping you with it.
Mm-hmm. Right, but then they're incentivized to like find some like a checklist item that represents your problem and then like apply the predetermined solution for that problem. And if you fall through the cracks and don't quite fit the problem that they have a solution for, you're out of luck. And it's really all the same problem, isn't it? It's just like trying to measure everything, like to try and measure and regulate all of life. And there's so much of our like the thing we're talking about, the thing that we're talking about, just like needing time and space for, is like the immeasurable stuff, the stuff that cannot be fit into this. And like, yeah, there's just like simply not time for it or energy for it. Those two things are convertible, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, that's a dark ending.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I feel like we could try and pull it out of there, but like, I don't know.
That's where I'm at. That is where I am right now.
Yeah, that's where I'm at too.
I'm hoping to make space for it, but it is like my back hurts. Like everything hurts right now.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel the same way. My stomach hurts. It's, you know what? Like, let's not force a happy ending. Like, what kind of Zen thing would that be? Like,
yeah,
this is where we're at right now.
Namaste.
Householders is a production of the Atlanta Soto Zen Center in Atlanta, Georgia, and the Silent Thunder Order. Find us on the web at ASZC.org.
Our Sangha depends on your support. You can donate by PayPal to donate at storder.org. Gasho.